I'm going to test you, Sam. I got an English question for you.
Bring it on. Come on.
What is the difference between active and passive voice?
Okay, so active and passive voice are, so I guess what I would say is this. Active is sort of the normal way that we speak. We typically speak in active voice. We typically write in active voice. Passive voice is useful in some contexts, and passive voice can even kind of give a sense of sounding a little bit superior in certain contexts. But typically, especially in like the academic context, unless you're doing science writing, there's a reason why you might want to do it in science writing, but a lot of times an English teacher might actually try to get you to turn any sentences you write in passive voice back into active voice, because active voice tends to be more clear. Let me explain exactly what I'm talking about. If we could jump to my screen really quickly, I'm just going to type up some of this stuff, and I can, I think, make this bigger for us so we can maybe see it just a little bit better on your guys' screen. Okay, so active or passive. So the first thing that I'll start with is just that English is a subject-verb-object language. So we tend to organize our sentences with the subject coming first, then the verb, and then the object of the sentence. And if you're confused about what any of these parts are, I'll go over them a little bit as I go through a couple examples. But there are other languages out there that do not use this system. There are languages out there that are verb-subject-object systems. There are verb-object-subject systems. You can mix it up any which way, and it's one thing that linguists do is they actually study different languages based on how they order the parts of their sentence, like subjects, objects, and verbs. So again, like I said, English is normally, I've got written here, subject, verb, object, SVO language, and that's how we're going to write passive voice. So like we might take a sentence like, and I'll highlight the sentence that I'm going to write here. Oh, not make it in yellow because that would be bad, but I'll highlight it in yellow so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I could take a sentence like, let's just take something really simple, like I could say John runs. So John runs just has a subject and a verb. There's no object there. For an object, we need what's called a transitive verb. We need a verb that can transfer the action of the subject onto an object. So let's keep John, I guess, super generic guy name. I should maybe come up with a better, weird, okay. I was thinking of like a unique name, but Becca works. It's better than John. Oh, sorry, Becca. Jeez. Those CC Beccas are the worst anyways, so. Okay, anyways, so we'll say Becca eats, and then why would we not do this? Eats pie, right? So, because it just makes sense for today, right? So this is active voice. Becca eats pie, and to show you why that's active voice, I kind of have to show you what passive voice is, but essentially active voice can be thought of as the simplest way to construct a sentence in English. So then if we wanted to construct a passive voice, what we're going to do is we're going to flip the object and the subject. Okay, so the object has to come first. And the way that we do this is we end up using the verb to be. And we also use the word by along with it. So let's see. So in this case, we're going to say the pie. And then I want to say that Becca ate the pie, but I have to say it in a backwards way. So I'm going to say it was eaten by Becca. The pie was eaten by Becca. So this is the difference between active and passive voice. Passive voice uses, again, the verb to be is right here. I'm going to highlight the verb was, because that's a form. I'll just highlight in there. That's the form of to be that is used in this case. But this is all we're doing when we're using passive voice. And I just sort of want to get back to like, why would we use this, right? So if it was totally out of context and we just wanted to explain, and maybe what I'll do here is say, eats the pie. Like, we would probably want to stay with active voice, but there might be a reason, like the pie was eaten by Becca, might be a response to a question. Like somebody might say, who ate the pie? Where did all the pie go? And at that point, the pie is sort of the center of our focus and our interest. So now it makes sense in my response for me to start my sentence with the pie, because that's what we're focusing on. So if somebody said, where did the pie go, or who ate the pie, I would say, well, the pie was eaten by Becca, or that might be a response that I would make. And I guess here, you know what would make more sense here? Since we don't know where the pie went, we would maybe say here, Becca ate the pie. So let me also just clarify that if we used a past tense verb, like Becca ate the pie, like she ate it in the past, this is still active voice. Still active voice because we've got that standard sentence order, subject, verb, object, right? But it can have happened in the past. Active voice is more clear. You'll notice it takes fewer words. But again, there are maybe some circumstances where, for context, we're going to want to use, throw the object in front and put an emphasis on that. And then I'll just also throw out there that there are a lot of cases in scientific writing where passive voice is totally acceptable, maybe again because there's a reason to focus on the object of the verb. And at some point here, as I continue to get more English questions And this is actually the first English question I've done on the show, so exciting. But maybe I'll get some questions around the idea of what a subject, what a verb, what an object is, and we can go into that in a little more depth at some point then.
I would say the advantage of it is to, if you're writing a 22-page senior thesis paper, to use passive voice a little bit to help that word count a little bit.
So I totally hear you, but I'm gonna push back on you, because if you do that, there is a chance you will get a professor that will look at it and go, I'm not going to read this until you take out all of the extraneous passive voice.
Oh, I did. I was totally kidding.
And yeah, so I mean, that's where it can sort of backfire on you. And you sound a little bit more educated, I think, when you use the passive voice. In some contexts, you can sound more educated. So I think that's people tend to use it in academic papers.
Right.
But you want to be careful, because a lot of professors prefer, no, just tell me what happened. Did Becca eat the pie or not? Yeah, Becca ate the pie.
Yeah, I did get a little pushback in college.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I didn't know that you could do the English. That's
pretty
cool.
I also have my English teaching license. So.
Oh, multi-talented.
Yeah, I lucked out. I never was really taught English grammar, but I learned Spanish when I was younger, and that was my original major in college. And learning another language really helped me understand English grammar. If you want to learn English grammar, I cannot recommend anything more than just learn a different language besides English.
Is that because you're relearning the structure that we all kind of take for granted?
Exactly. It's like I know how to speak English. I don't have to think about speaking English, right? So it's almost, and I see why students get frustrated. You're in class, you're like, I know how to speak and write. You don't have to tell me all these little tiny things that don't seem to matter to me.
Right.
But when you're learning Spanish or another language, all of a sudden these things start to become important, and making those parallel connections in your brain of, oh, we do it like this in Spanish, we do it like this in English, and I see why now because I can name the parts of the sentence. Suddenly it was really relevant to me, and so I picked it up that way.
Huh.
So,
Makes sense.
anyways, yeah, learn another language. It's awesome.
So cool.
Yeah.
Multi-talent.